After a calamitous start at Old Trafford, where they were 2-0 down in the space of 4 minutes at the start of the game, Manchester United win 3-2 against Nottingham Forest, but not without a lot of talking points. Rob Dawson talking in a little bit from Old Trafford, and Shaka Hislop joining Miguel Echegaray, ESPN FC. Shaka, your reaction as Erik ten Hag's men get 3 points, but not without a lot of talking points on some iffy issues.
Yeah, I guess the big takeaway here is that Manchester United won again at Old Trafford. They take 3 points, so maybe, just maybe, we shouldn't be overly critical. But it was anything but. I mean, an awful start, as you mentioned, Luis. 2 goals down in the opening, 5 minutes, and then having to claw their way back. That being said, they dominated possession, dominated chances. But for some very poor finishing, it could have been a lot more convincing. But what we've seen from Manchester United so far this season is, even when they've been able to keep the ball, even when they've been able to have good passages of play, at times their finishing has just let them down. And I do feel for somebody like Marcus Rashford, who carried this team, particularly in the second half of last season, post-World Cup, and in need of that center forward to play alongside. Today, Martial was given the nod from the start. I'm not sure that he's the solution that Ten Hag or Manchester United need. And in the end, again, while we're talking about a Manchester United win, it was anything but convincing against a team who you'd expect will be closer to the bottom 3 than to the top 4.
Let's keep going with that narrative, Rob Dawson from Old Trafford. I want you to tell me one thing here, okay? Give me the positives of what you saw today and the negatives, because it did begin with a negative. I mean, the counter-attacking mishap, and of course not paying attention in a weird goal from a corner as well that went 2-0, but they came back and crawled back. What really stood out to you, Rob, today at Old Trafford after getting those 3 points?
I mean, there are 2 ways of looking at it, aren't there? Either it's the type of result that kickstarts a sluggish start to the season and breathes life into the entire season, or it's a comeback to cover up the cracks. And we're probably not going to find out the answer to that until they go to Arsenal next weekend. In terms of positives, I mean, you can't fault the application after they go 2-0 down. And, to come back in any game, particularly a Premier League game, when you're 2-0 down to win 3-2, you deserve quite a lot of credit for that. And in the end, they probably did deserve to win, but only just about. The big negative, though, is that they look vulnerable. Again, they look vulnerable when they beat Wolves. They look vulnerable when they were beaten at Spurs, and they look vulnerable again today. And, if you're going to go to a place like Arsenal next weekend, Mikel Arteta is going to look at that performance and identify a load of different areas where he can exploit. And that's a big worry. The issue at the moment is that no one seems to really know what United are at the moment. Are this team a team that can challenge for the title and build on the progress of last season? Or are they in for another season where they're scrapping around to finish in the top 4? It's probably too early to make any real conclusions. But the problem is that at the start of the season, it has just been really, really underwhelming. And still, after the win today, that's still where we are.
Yeah, I want to focus on a specific moment here, Shaka. It was 2-2, fighting back and forth. Bruno Fernandes was going towards goal after a good through ball, and Joe Worrell was fighting with him, and obviously he did bring him down. It was a foul, but then it was a red card, right? What did you make of that, due to the fact that, per the official and after the check, that he was impeding a goal-scoring opportunity? I'm not so sure about that. What did you make of that?
I have to say, both big decisions I thought were right on the fence, and could have gone either way. In the end, the red card being stood up, I didn't have a problem with the penalty being not being overturned. I didn't have a problem with, but both of those, I think, could have been adjudged differently with a different ref, or indeed a different VAR. There's no question that Worrell intended to bring up Bruno Fernandes. I think Bruno Fernandes was favourite to get the ball ahead of Bolly, I think it was, who was out on that right-hand side from a Nottingham Forest perspective. But just but just. And again, it really was on defense. And similarly with the penalty. I looked at that closely. I questioned whether Rashford he initiated contact. And again, I'm right on the fence with it. And I suspect that if you do a poll of impartial voters, which I know is kind of hard to find in today's world, you will find a similar split right down the middle.
You're right with that. That both of those decisions, I think if they get given on the field, the VAR doesn't overturn them. If the referee doesn't give them on the field, that they don't get overturned by the VAR. I think, and that's the example of the fine margins that we've seen today. I mean, not only is the red card debatable, the penalty is probably debatable. Forest have also had a chance at 2-1 up right at the end of the first half where Gibbs White's had a shot. It's hit his teammate on the line almost. It's heading for the corner. Forest could quite easily have gone in at half-time 3-1 up. And then it's a completely different game. The entire afternoon really was based on these fine margins. And again, United are going to go away. They'll take the positives from the victory. They've probably had the benefit of two debatable decisions. They've got away with one at the end of the first half. You know, it really hasn't been convincing. As thrilling as it is to come back from 2-0 down to win 3-2, it certainly wasn't convincing in any respect.
Well, it's a victory for Manchester United, but then they're traveling to face Arsenal, who also, are looking for some kind of redemption this weekend. And after that, Rob Dawson, it's Brighton. Is there going to be any major movement, whether it's within the squad, or is Erik ten Hag happy with what he has as he looks ahead to the next few weeks, which are going to be difficult?
Well, he's definitely not happy. He's always going to want more players. The word from Man United at the moment is that it's going to be quite quiet next week. There are obviously interesting midfielders. They probably need to look at left backs now because of the injuries to Luke Shaw and Tyrell Malacia. There's an issue there if both of those are going to be out until November. We asked Ten Hag at his press conference on Friday whether there was a temptation to try and bid for another striker. He said no. The fact of the matter is that there really isn't the money there to go and make these really late signings in the window. And possibly if they can get rid of Dean Henderson, Donny van der Beek, Eric Bailly, there may be a little bit of room financially to maybe bring one in. But the word from United is, at the moment, that they've done the bulk of their business and it's going to be quite quiet next week. Again, you just mentioned those two games, Arsenal and then Brighton. Those really are two games that are going to set up United's season. Either United put in two really good performances, get two good results, and the fans, the enthusiasm of the fans, the positivity of the fans come back. Or the flip side of that is they don't play well, they have two poor results, and the doom and gloom around Old Trafford will descend again. I mean, I'm sure that you can even hear around me now, there's a protest, an anti-ownership protest going on inside the stadium that's going to last an hour after kickoff. And really that just sums up what's happening at this club at the moment. The dark clouds are hanging over the place and they really need some kind of positivity. At the moment, it feels like the situation's on a bit of a knife edge. It could go one way or the
other. If I could jump in here, Luis, I think a couple of things, and if I'm being my Manchester United fan best here, I'm looking at a couple of positives. Reports are that Højlund is back training. I've spoken about their need for an out-and-out striker, and I know there's a lot of expectation on a young striker coming in to a new league that he has not played in before, but that's kind of the territory that we're in with Manchester United. So maybe him being involved gives that needed dimension for Manchester United. And again, while I was picking on Bukayo Saka, saying that his poor pass is something we probably won't see again for another 2 or 3 seasons, something that we haven't said for maybe a year or so. I thought Anthony on the right-hand side was very good today for Manchester United. And again, I know the caveat to that is it's at home to Nottingham Forest. But I thought it's the best we've seen of him for some time. Now, if all of a sudden those two things come good, you have reason to believe if you're Manchester United. Because in all honesty, 2 wins at home, 6 points, and currently sitting, 4th or 5th on the table. I know there are other teams to play this weekend. It's not been a good start to the season.
Yeah, 2 victories, 1 loss, as Shaka said early in the season. And as Rob said, plenty for Erik ten Hag to do as Manchester United continues the beginning of the season with 2 tough games following up. And of course, European competition to come in a few months' time. Rob Dawson from Old Trafford, Shaka, Hislop, Luis Miguel Echegaray. Make sure to stay with ESPN FC on YouTube Digital and the website, of course, for more Premier League coverage.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. And for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.